Welcome, traders. By now you may have seen this chart, which I cryptically put up in a blog post a few days ago. And after that, did an interview with one of ZoneTraderPro customers named Terry. And the basis of that interview was how Terry became a funded trader in a little under 3 months. And that is after only opening his first account a couple months before that. So Terry has been kind enough to go over what it is that we are seeing up here on his charts. And it's basically the KP2 ratio displayed a different way and the ZoneTraderPro Delta Strength Indicator. And he basically uses it as a 3-second ticker as he is trading to see where strength is coming in and if there's a lack of it. So I've gone and taken what Terry has shown me and added a couple things that I want to see on the chart also. With the top on the chart here, what we are seeing is the KP2 ratio as it flips at this exhaustion trade right here. And we could see that on this bottom chart right here. In the middle, we have the Delta Strength Indicator. And normally we would see the Delta Strength Indicator as a bubble. We've gone and changed that. In the third panel down here, we also have the KP2 ratio, but showing it as support. Now what I've done is I've made 2 changes to this, and I've gone ahead and added a cumulative delta, which is right here, and I've gone ahead and put the Bloodhound trend chart here, and on the larger chart I've again put the cumulative delta, and I've put the Bloodhound trigger chart down here so we can see as trends and triggers are changing. So for this first chart here, I'm going to go to the data series, and we're going to have 2 data series on here. I'm going to explain that in a second. The first data series we're going to have is an ES 3-second with tick replay. And what is important is that we have a chart style of line on close, made the bar width a 4, and for the SPY, again, make sure that it is set to 3 seconds. You can do a line on close, that's not going to matter, but also go ahead and check tick replay. So we're creating these 2 data series. The ES data series has to be first, the SPY is second. In order to do that, we're first going to pull up our ES, change the value to a 3-second value. We want our line on close. We want to give it a bar width of 4. We then come down, add the SPY. It picks up the fact that we already want a 3-second line on close, tick replay, and say OK. That will give us this chart right here. So our chart's going to look something like this. And what we want to do is we want to come over here to the price. We want to left click and hold. And we basically want to make the price a straight line. All I'm doing is holding and dragging the mouse down, and that's going to give us our straight line. We don't need to do this for the SPY. Now's the time to start adding the indicators. Okay, we're going to be adding 5 indicators to this chart, and what I've called large lot is the ZoneTraderPro Delta Strength Indicator, and all I've done is rename it large lot right here in the label. So that's why it reads out large lot rather than Delta Strength. These are the settings that I've chosen just to display this. We want to show the delta strength, but we need to change the buy and the sell to transparent. We don't need to reconstruct the tape, and I'm going to leave this as a filter of 1, and this is going to be something that you can play with as Terry did when he first created this. So he uses a different number on the NQ, but I'm going to just keep this at 1 right now, and this is going to be something that you can test and play with. The next is going to be the resistance KP2. So for resistance KP2, we want a minimum filter of 1, and then just set the max filter to some very large number. Don't forget your reset time. If you're on Eastern Standard Time, generally just put 1800. If you are some other time, just shift it from 1800 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to want the deviation value to still be at 3.5 points, and it's going to be in panel 1. The large lot is something that I forgot to mention, is going to be in panel 2. The KP2 for support is going to be in panel 3. And again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a min filter and a max filter. We're going to change our reset time to 1800 if we're in Eastern Standard Time. We're going to put the price deviation value at 3.5. And the other settings is we're just going to change the plot, and we're going to change the plot to a bar and set its width to 6. And we're going to do the same thing with the resistance. We're going to set the plot to bar and a width of 6. So those are the settings for the first 3 indicators. The fourth indicator, I put a cumulative delta on here because I like to see the cumulative delta moving, and maybe you might also. So again, we're not going to set it to any filters unless you want it to filter. I've just set a reset time of 2400 so that you could see this at the open and there won't be any jump. Likewise, you can also set it for 1800, and that will basically give us the same effect that we are looking for. It is going to show up in panel 4. And the last thing I want to do, and this is going to be something new because of something I have discovered with Bloodhound. I'm going to put Bloodhound on here, and in the next day, I'm going to create a new ZTP file, and we're going to call it version 14. Now, there's not going to be anything different except the names right here. All right. And you're going to understand what I am doing when I get to the explanation. So on this chart, I want to see the trend and low VIX. So first we're going to choose ZTP VIX V13, V14 very shortly, and trend low VIX. Now, in the version 14, I'm going to indicate that it needs to be put on a SPY chart. The next 2 things I'm going to change are the long threshold to 0.5 and 0.5, and that's something that I always do. Now, the next thing that we need to change, and this is going to become very important, is the input series. We have 2 choices. We have SPY and we have ES. So it's set at SPY right now, and this is the correct answer. I'm going to show you something, and this is the reason for the change. If I set it for the ES 324 and I hit OK, and I say OK on the indicator, the entire bloodhound signal is going to come up as a -1 and entirely red. So here's the problem. On this chart, the input series is the SPY, and we have ZTP trend low VIX. And this is the correct answer. If I change it to the ES, we have a completely different answer, which is wrong. And you can see how they had changed. If I do just one thing and I change it to the ZTP trigger lower VIX, the chart is going to come up completely red. And that's what the chart looks like here. So I am going to make a specific video about this. I have notified Bloodhound about it. Bloodhound has said it is not necessarily a Bloodhound issue. It could also be a NinjaTrader issue. But it is definitely something that I have observed, and I want to make the people using Bloodhound aware of this. And if you are wondering what it has to do with, is a particular solver and those solvers working on indexes. So the problem is specific to a specific solver working on an index. So for now, we're going to change this back to the SPY, and now your chart should pretty much look like this. But we still have 2 more changes to do, and we need to come over to the properties section over here, and we need to right click, go to the properties, and we need to change the range to fix, the horizontal grid lines to fix, the maximum to 120, and this can actually be set higher, but what it's going to show is when there is accumulation or distribution present. So before COVID, I would say that a value of 95 at least was that value. However, we can now see values, because liquidity has returned, we can see values up to 200 and above, not frequently, but we can at least see them. But if you want to be able to see the bar by bar, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to settle on a number, and that could be anywhere from 1 to maybe 150. And that will give us our range up here. So if you have anything over a 150, the bar is just going to be maxed out at 150. We need to do the same thing down here, but we need to do it with a negative number. First, we need to change the range and the horizontal grid lines back to fixed. We need to set the maximum to 0, and then we need to change the minimum. Again, maybe we'll put it at a -150. The type is going to be linear. And what that's going to produce is a bar graph up here every 3 seconds showing either increasing or decreasing KP2 resistance. Now, the next thing I'm going to do to this chart is I'm going to get the SPY out of the way, because I don't think the SPY is necessary. So this top chart here now has what I have gone and put and adjusted. I have the ZTP trend low VIX on the Bloodhound chart. I have set the cumulative delta. I've hidden the SPY, and I have the Bloodhound on the bottom here. And this represents this trend trade right here, as it would be going by tick for tick every 3 seconds. Now, basically what we're trying to look for is we want to see our buying and our selling from our delta strength, but we also want to take into account what our support is telling us down here. Now remember, our support has been set at 100 and at a negative 150. So we have a full bar right here that literally had absorbed all of this selling right here, and the buyers continued to absorb the selling until we got this very large lot order right here that kicked us off into the next high. So the next chart that Terry showed me, which is an excellent idea that I should have thought of also, is the layering of divergence signals on the chart. And it looks something like this, where we see multiple divergences based on higher time frame zigzags. Now, the way I was looking at this is I created the 7.5 zigzag chart that we see here, and I was filtering with the delta strength here for trades of 100 or more. And at the same time, I also have the spot gamma levels here. So I was doing a version of it. However, I like the idea that Terry brought forward in using multiple divergences on the SPY itself. And let's take a look at what he did to do that. One of the first things you're going to notice is that there is no volume analysis numbers on this chart. He's gone and taken those off. So we're going to right click, go to our indicators. So the first thing he's done is placed a price line. This should show the last line and the ask line length of 100, bid line length of 100, and 100 for last line. Now the rest of this is the ZTP SPY divergences. So what he's done is he's gone and created 8 of them, 4 for support and 4 for resistance. So those settings are going to look something like this. We're going to reconstruct the tape. We're going to have a 1-2 basically infinity max filter, price deviation value of 0.35. Don't forget to hit the show divergence and the accumulation distribution. 3 is our key points, show our price plots, and then what he unchecked was show key points delta. And he made the changes by making the bearish price plots transparent and the bullish price plots the dark goldenrod color, and gave them a width of 1. So that's what he went and changed to eliminate the bearish plots here. And then one of the other things he did is he does not keep non-divergence. So the trades that do not work, he's just taking those off the chart. And that's to keep the chart uncluttered. Label offset he put to a -55, and arrow offset to a 2, show delta points. The next one is for the bullish, and so what he's done here is he's now given a bearish color, and he's turned the bullish to transparent. The next zigzag he has at 50 cents. So that's where we see this right here. Again, bearish is now transparent. For the next 50-cent one, we flip our colors. He then has his next at 0.7, and we flip our colors. And the last one is set at 0.9. So he's basically flipping them every 20 cents. This can be something that you could play with so that, again, just because he created these numbers doesn't mean they're set in stone. With our original 35 set here, we might want to add 25 and then 25 to that and do it in 25-cent increments on the SPY. This is again something for you to test and for you to try out. The last thing I've done is I have put on the Bloodhound Ultimate to this, and I put it to the trigger chart. Now remember, because this is a SPY chart, it's not going to matter which one of these things is chosen. It's only going to matter if it is the ES that is chosen. So what I want to see on this chart is I want to see what the VIX trigger chart is telling me. And then the last thing, of course, is I put the zones on the chart with a zigzag of 0.35. So if we would want to analyze a couple of trades from Friday, here we have a trade at 10:49 where he had double divergence. And I would be looking over here to our VIX charts for this trade. We can see that on the VIX 9D, the VIX 9D was trading below all of our moving averages. The same with the VIX. The same with the correlation 90D. We could see that we had some put selling going into that trade, which is what we want to see. And we have our volatility again trading at the low of our moving average ribbons. We have a second trade here. Again, pretty much the same setup with the VIX 9D and the VIX. The puts have just been trading sideways. We did have the stop run that occurred up here at the high. So you can see core 90D drop, which is going to take it higher. And then they're going to be bought back, which is going to drop the ES and give them better prices once they're back down here. We see the same thing happening right here. This dip takes the price higher. At this point, they can get a better price. All of these puts are then bought back, and price continues higher until even more puts are sold right here, and we see a very nice move out of our divergence pattern. Here's a really nice setup that I like to talk about a lot, and what we have here over here on the SPY is a strong trend that we created. Now this would be a strong trend trade from here, and as you can see, we would have green VIX and green trend. However, that strong trend trade fails. And in training with me, I tell you that this is a higher risk trade. And why? Because these trades represent a higher risk and a lower reward. And we see that going to happen right here. Now, we traded down into a trend trade right here, but if you took that trend trade, look at what the VIX charts are telling us. The VIX charts are now all trading above their moving averages. And when we get to this distribution short trade here, which is probably going to be good for 7, 8, 9 points, I don't know, but it was a nice size trade. That gives us the confidence to go and take this as a short trade. And the follow-on trade right here, again, a strong trend trade. However, you can see what the VIX is telling us. And if you did decide to take that high risk trade, maybe you do it with less contracts, less micros, and you be aware that you are trading into this exhaustion pattern, which we find to the tick right here at 495.21. And if you looked at the VIX charts, you see that the VIX charts failed to make higher highs while the SPY chart was making a lower low. That could have been one clue to get out of the chart, but the only other clue that would be a very significant clue is look right here in the core 90D. Suddenly puts got sold, which is bullish right there on the low. And why I say that this core 90D is a very important symbol to follow. And I will have a specific video on that also. Here we have a trade with triple divergence, and we can see that all of our VIXs were trading below their moving average rhythms. A single divergence here, again, same setup, and another long here with the same setup. The VIXs all trading below their moving average rhythms. And just so there's no confusion, I want to again go over the issue that I have found with Bloodhound. When the symbol up here is a futures signal, and you are using one of these four templates, the ZTP trend or the ZTP trigger, either the low or high VIX, these include solvers that are related to indexes. So you will not get the correct answer. The 25-second ES trend does not have one of those solvers and could be used on this chart as is. If you are going to use Bloodhound on an ES chart, you need to put the SPY on that chart also. And then you need to put Bloodhound and tell it to do the input series here and choose SPY if you're going to use one of these four solvers. I hope that's been clear, but if it hasn't, I'm going to make a specific blog entry about what is and what is not acceptable as the input series and the logic templates, and that will be done very shortly. And I'd like to give a big thanks to Terry, who's introduced us to these new ideas. Okay, after completely editing the video and getting ready to publish, I came up with an additional idea, and that was to place the delta strength with the 100 filter on the chart as you see here. And these charts are very interesting. This is from February 22nd, and at 10:30 in the morning as we were making a high. And what is interesting to me is, first you see the delta strength of 130 contracts sold, and over here on the core 90D we see that jump, so that 130 probably correlated to those puts. But going into this high, look at what we've done. The VIX was increasing all the way into the high right there, and now the price was now above all the moving average ribbons. And again, we see even more puts that were being bought right there as price starts going down, and some more here as price continues to fall. But by placing the delta strength on the ticker, we can see where these large lots are going off, and if they do in fact coincide with an area where we would want to be making a trade, such as this long trade from right there. We see a large lot over 200 lots being traded right at our entry point. So I will make that change on the templates. Now, what that's going to look like in the setup is, this is what I had originally called large lot. And I just changed that back, the name back to ZTP delta strength. I then added the second delta strength indicator, this time what we're going to filter, and rename that large lot because that is more appropriate. I hit reconstruct tape, filter of 100. I unchecked the delta change. We don't need that. We do want to show the delta strength, and we want to keep the red and the green colors. This way we differentiate from what the regular one that is picking up every contract. We differentiate that from the filter of 100 or more. Okay, we have a live trade from Monday, and you can see the cumulative delta having spiked, and that was immediately met with resistance. As you can see, the KP2 on the fourth bar jump. We have triple divergences forming, although we're not at the high yet. And you can see that the delta strength indicator is picking up market orders to sell also, more than market orders to buy. Again, look at the cumulative delta going higher with the KP2 ratio going higher, and that basically is the definition of distribution. We've now hit the high, and we'll be trading down from here. Remember, on the delta strength indicator on this chart right here, there is no filter set, so the delta strength indicator is picking up all market orders without any filter. And now the selling starts to come in. Okay, the market has sold down from that high, and as you can see, what I've done is I have added the VIX information onto here. You're going to see it make a low. They're selling it pretty hard into the blue counter trend zone. The VIXs are still rising. But now on the delta strength indicator, we see the strength coming in, and that's going to be the bottom right there. You can see how once the bottom was put in, there's just way more delta strength buy than there is delta strength to sell. And now the VIXs have both started moving down. And we've now got a low being put in. The next trade I'm going to illustrate here is going to be a losing trade, and why following the VIX is just so important. You can see we're approaching a regular trend trade right here. And all of the VIXs are trading below their moving average ribbons. Now, what you just saw there was a very large drop in the VIX. It's not unusual to have a pullback to the zones of support. It is more unusual to see it breaking as it's breaking even lower right now. What's really important is watch the price, and right here where we would have approximately entered the trade, all of the VIX bloodhound symbols are now green. We could exit this trade for no loss. You can see from the ticker, there's nothing but buying going on. We still have the ability to exit the trade at this point. Again, the Delta Strength ticker is showing more buys than it is sells. You can see the cumulative delta below it also creeping higher. What we're seeing right now is a lot of market orders coming in, and we see the KP2 going lower. What is happening is the limit orders to buy are absorbing those market orders to sell, and that's why the KP2 is getting lower. What this is support. If it were to continue, we would have a divergence signal to be a buyer in this case because it's going so low. And what's going to happen shortly on the divergence is you're going to see that we're going to lose the divergence because of this. The VIX continues to fall. the delta strength ticker and cumulative delta continue to rise. We just saw a large sale of puts and an accompanying 127 on the delta ticker, probably from that options dealer. And we now have a really good example of how we use our real-time indicators to avoid taking this loss. Okay, I've forwarded some, and what you can see is now that what we have are rising VIXs. We have Bloodhound painting red in the trends, and we're going to trade into a short trade. Both the VIX and the VIX 90 are both trading above their moving average rhythms, and so is the volume of the VIX. We do have just a slight pullback to the moving average rhythms in the core 90D. You see the buying coming in. We have made our zone and our resistance. We have a divergence short trade. We can see the KP2 going higher. In this case, it's showing us resistance from those delta strength buys. They were being absorbed by limit order sellers. We see a big jump in the core 90D. That is put buying. The market orders to buy were absorbed, and now we're seeing the market orders to sell and price trading down, and a successful trade. Okay, from that successful short trade, we're going to see a bottom being put in right here. There's our accumulation divergence signal. We also have special divergence there now too. You could see that as we went lower, the KP2 bars got larger as the cumulative delta was falling, and that is your limit order support. Here comes the buyers taking it back up. Here's going to be another quick example of a short divergence trade. You're going to see the delta strength indicator come in pretty hard. You see the large buy that just occurred on the dropping VIX. We are now in resistance. We see buying. The VIX continues to fall. We have our divergence signal. The VIX now starts to creep up. The core 90D never pulled back, which is a good sign to a short. And we see the delta strength ticker showing us market orders to sell. I hope you've enjoyed this live trade analysis. If you have any questions, be sure to give me a call. There will be chart templates put up on the blog immediately after this video is posted. And if you have any questions, of course, let me know. Thanks and take care. Have a good day.